The Citizen Mike Show. News. Commentary. Interviews. Citizen Mike Show starts now.
Welcome to the Citizen Mike Show. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. My name is Mike Berdinsky. You're probably used to seeing Ralph Tomaselli here on my right. He was the co-host of the Citizen Mike Show, but he couldn't return to the show because of pressing duties with a record journal. He will be missed. We are continuing on with our programming, though, and this fall we are featuring new candidates to the Wallingford Town Council. And tonight we do have another new candidate. She is Republican candidate Christina Tatta. Christina, welcome to Citizen Mike Show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I want to get some housekeeping details out of the way. Sort of the ground rules. We have sent to all the candidates appearing on the Citizen Mike Show topics. The same topics, and we sent the same 4 topics to all of them. They've had about a month or so, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, to get their thoughts together, prepare, research, ask around, so we could get them at their best and most thoughtful. And so the same topics that we asked last week of Jamie Hine and Jeff Cohan, we're asking Christina Tatta about those exact same topics. But first, we also asked candidates to send us about 3 sentences that would serve to introduce them to you. Christina sent me a couple of sentences, a few sentences, and I'm going to read them to you. Here's what she asked me to read. Christina Tatta is the lead bookkeeper and corporate secretary, overseeing all of the financial functions at Central Auto Auction, a business started and still operated by her family. Christina served as the vice chair of the Charter Revision Commission, is currently a member and secretary of the Zoning Board of Appeals, is the Republican Town Committee vice chair, and is also an active parishioner of the Church of the Resurrection. Her website is christinatatta.com, and her Facebook page is Christina Tatta for Town Council. Good. You ready to go? We're gonna hit the ground running here. Let's get to topic number 1, and it is the school renovation project. And everyone who watches this show knows something about this. It's been in the paper for a long time. We've reported on it for a long time. Basically, the Board of Education, over a period of time, has developed 3 alternatives for repairs, renovations, or rebuilds of the Wallingford Public Schools. A survey was sent out. All of you know that. The results of the survey were reported, and we're kind of waiting for the next step. But the election is probably going to come before that next step occurs. So, Christina, picture yourself up there. You've been elected, let's say, and you're sitting, right next to Craig Fishbein, hypothetically. And the 3 proposals from the Board of Ed come before you. Let's say the auditorium is filled with 150 people, teachers, parents, kids, and, they have an agenda. You're trying to figure out what it is. You know the scene. And they say, okay, we want you to pick, the Board of Ed says, we want you to pick one of those alternatives. What do you do? How do you handle it?
Well, first of all, if that's how it goes, and if I'm on the council, I don't think it's the town council's place to pick one of the 3 choices. So I'm hoping it doesn't go that way. I would hope that the proposal that comes to the town council were for the project that the Board of Ed has already chosen. So the town council is not the experts on the education system. The Board of Ed is, and that's what they're elected for. So first of all, if the 3 options were proposed to the council, I would not be in favor of us being the ones to choose.
Do you have a favorite of those 3 proposals? Because you got a bully pulpit, on the council. You can issue press releases or things like that. Would you like it to go in one particular way?
Actually, out of the 3 choices, the one that I'm leaning more towards would be the cheaper option, mainly because that's the one that addresses the strategic plan.
Could you just describe a little bit what that cheaper option is so our viewers can get on, we all can get the same page of what you mean?
Yeah, I believe that the cheapest option, which is approximately $15 million, would be renovating the higher level schools, so the high schools, middle schools. But I did notice in that option that it addresses items in the strategic plan. And I think that's very important to me. I think if we're going to spend a lot of money on the schools, I would like to see that money spent on items that are in our strategic plan, because that plan has been worked on for years by our Board of Ed, our teachers, the superintendent. And so rather than somebody from the outside coming in and saying, these are your options, I would rather we go toward the strategic plan. Also, that would address more schools. That addresses all of the schools as opposed to just the upper level schools.
The cheapest option, you're right, as I remember, under 20 million in the 15 to 20 million dollar range, and that price would certainly be fine-tuned, but it gives us an order of magnitude. And the most expensive is a rebuild of all 4 schools. The price, I think we're both aware of, is in the neighborhood of 117 million. And then there's sort of another one that is, I can't recall, but it approaches like 100 million. So you're picking the least expensive one, but supposing it goes down the way I described. They come in front of you, they say, based on the survey results, most of Wallingford wants the more expensive option, and then applause breaks out in the auditorium. You know how this goes, and they say, do the expensive one. And now, what speech do you give them? Because they're there, they want you to, the crowd has been worked a little bit, and there you go. Take it away. How do you do it? And Craig Fishbein is maybe sitting right next to you. I don't know what he's going to say, but he may say no because he typically does. So what happens?
Well, in response to the survey results, first of all, I have issues with the survey itself.
Oh. Can you get into that a little bit?
Sure. I took the survey. I thought the questions were confusing. I don't think they were very straightforward. I don't know that they left a lot of room for alternatives, where I think there are alternatives, and I think our Board of Ed are the experts and could find that. So,
would you say that? If you're on the council, I mean,
I would. I think if they were presenting the options to the council and saying you have to pick one of these 3,
and the survey
showed this, I think we would need to get into how many people participated in the survey, what the results were, and maybe look at some issues that may have existed in that survey.
All right. Let's change topics. Another topic that we sent to you for discussion was economic development. That seems to come up every election cycle. And some candidates are very outspoken about it. And, I just wanted to get your overview. The whole issue of economic development, when I say that, you think what?
This is kind of my passion.
Oh.
So
we hit it right. We have a good night, folks. Okay, we have a good evening ahead of us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've grown up in business, come from a family of business owners over the generations, and I've spent a lot of time with Tim Ryan and the Economic Development Commission through the campaign process. I don't think that we're doing as poorly as some are making it out to be. I know we hear a lot of talk about downtown, which, there are issues downtown, and I think we can all agree. But a lot of that is privately owned. So there's only so much we can do with private properties that either aren't willing to sell or, they don't want to renovate. But we have a very good industrial and commercial aspect to our town, which I think doesn't get a lot of credit often.
Well, does the economic development program, as it's unfolded in the last several years, need any tweaking? And if so, your authority on the council is sort of over money. You can't do too much else, but you also have a bully pulpit. Mm-hmm. What initiative, if any, would you advocate for that isn't already being done? What motion would you make? And you would line up a second in advance to make sure it gets discussed thoroughly. How would it go if you're elected?
Well,
Or are you
if I
happy
could-
enough with it so you really probably wouldn't try to tweak it at all? Maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
well, I can tell you what I don't think I would do, or
Good.
what I
Let's
wouldn't
start with
what I
that.
wouldn't support.
All right, let's start with that. Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the town buying properties. It happened with Brothers, and I spoke to Mr. Ryan about it, asked him what the rationale behind that was, and it does make sense. I see what we were doing with that, but I think that we can work more to use the properties that we do have rather than trying to buy up a lot of other properties. We don't have a stellar track record with buying properties and making use of them, so I'd like to see if we could maybe use what we have. So, for example, I believe we own the old train station. Maybe look at doing something with that. Maybe lease that to.
Do you think do you think we need to do that, or is that something that? I mean, did you feel strongly enough about that so you would actually make a motion and ask the mayor to do something, or is it something it's good enough the way it is? I'm trying to gauge your enthusiasm rating for for doing something with the
I think I might.
trains.
I think for the properties
Okay.
that we already own, I would certainly be open to looking at those and doing something with those. Again, in collaboration with the Economic Development Commission, planning and zoning, see what we can do with what we already have.
Okay. Good enough. The issue of bringing new businesses into town has come up from time to time. Are we doing enough? Are we doing all that anyone really can do, and the rest you got to leave it to market forces? Is that where you stand on that?
I think
Because my next question, and let me, I don't want mean to be indirect. Let me just interrupt myself. So your business is in Hamden, yeah?
Yes.
Well, why don't you move to Wallingford? Come on, move to Wallingford. We have great incentives. We have nice people, a nice town, move to Wallingford.
Sure.
That would be the first step of economic development. Why isn't that practical for you?
well,
Because you could be symbolic or an example of a lot of other
Sure.
businesses out there. Go ahead.
we would love to actually.
Okay.
We would love to do business in Wallingford. Somebody did try to open an auto auction years ago, and it didn't go very well. So
Okay.
this was kind of a circumstantial
I remember that.
reason why we ended up in Hamden. But as far as what we already do, I think Tim Ryan does so much. I mean, we have a lot of businesses that I think are kind of under the radar. BYK, for example, I believe they're all over North America, and they're or all over the world actually. I think they're a German company. Their North American headquarters is in Wallingford. That's a huge business that nice buildings.
And we got 'em.
And we have them.
Okay.
Wallingford has a very business-friendly approach. I know Casey Hand, the town planner, works with businesses to find out what they need.
Okay, I think I get it. Things are going pretty well from your perspective in that area. Switch topics.
Sure.
Another one we sent out to you is community pool. As we indicated in the last show, I think the history of community pool is pretty much written now with the measures that the town council have already done. It looks like there's going to be a design for a pool together with amenities, splash pads, things like that. Are you generally happy with that? And the price tag is about $6 million, hard costs, soft costs. Some wince at that, and some are not apologetic at all. I just want to know where you stand on that whole issue of community pool, the $6 million, and that amenity.
Yeah. The $6 million, I'm afraid that won't be what the actual cost comes out to be. So my main concern with community pool, I would love to vote for it. I'm afraid it's going to become a money pit. And, you look at, for example, Cheshire, and I remember probably about 20 years ago, Cheshire was, talking about doing a community pool, and it seems like every single year there was, an issue and a problem and millions more. And so I think we have to look at, is it a good value? Now, if things stay the way they are and it's only open for, 5 or 6 weeks and the hours are not good and we're spending $6 million plus all the maintenance every year, then that's not a good value.
Well, there's been I don't want to call it a pledge, but a representation that the season would be expanded.
Yes.
The hours would be expanded. The Park and Rec Commission is, again, it's not a pledge, but they seem to be committed to selling passes online and things like that.
Yes.
Let's assume that's the case. What say you?
if that's the case, and we have assurances of that, then I think, yes, I think it's a good project. But we need to make sure we're doing the things to make it a longer season, to make it, easier to access. I think the splash pad is a great idea. That kind of, you can use that in the shoulder season. A lot of people I know drive to East Haven to bring their kids to one.
Okay. So the $600,000 plus has already been authorized for a design, and as we speak, the architects and engineers are designing away, and at some point after the election, they will come back to the town council, and might be after the winners of this election are seated. So I think it would probably come before you. And they say it's ready to go out to bid, and you look at it one more time, and this is your last chance to, I don't know, tweak it or something. Any tweaks that you would make to, some have said more lap lanes, some have said, playgrounds, I don't know, but any tweaks or design good enough? We haven't got to the price phase yet. We'll get to that in about 2 minutes, but just on the design. So far, so good, and you let it go out to bid.
Yes,
pretty much as is.
I think the design is,
Okay.
It's a good design, sure.
And now it comes back, and let's say it's $6,010,000. Those are hard bids for the construction, soup to nuts. You'd go for it, I assume. What's $10? But my next question, okay, $6,400,000 could come in at that too.
Yeah.
Is there a line that you draw?
I think the line for me is more the ongoing costs of it.
The operational costs.
Operational costs. There's good estimates, and they're saying that the new pool will be more of a break even every season, which is great if it is.
Okay.
I'm a little bit concerned. I know a couple town council meetings ago, there was a consent agenda item for additional cost of chemicals when they extended the season this year. Wasn't a lot of money, but their estimate of how much chemicals they were going to use was off by, I think, approximately 40%.
Okay.
So if we're basing, building this new pool on figures, and then, this was more than we thought, this was more than we thought.
Well, but what choice do you have? After you authorize the money, and let's it's bonded for, construction cost, and let's say it's $6 million, rounded, could be a little more, a little less. Now you're in, and the pool is built, and 3 years after that, the operational costs may be a little higher than anyone thought, and tag sales, pool pass sales may be a little lower, and so you're running a deficit, like the school cafeteria. For a while they're running a deficit, and everyone kind of panicked about it. That's my interpretation of events anyway. You're stuck. So does that mean you're going to vote no or something, or you're just going to keep your fingers crossed, even if expenses don't come out the way they were predicted?
I think what I would do is ask a lot of questions up front before I voted yes, to just get some reassurances.
You'd grill them.
I
can see that look in your eye. You'd grill them. You'd pin them down. You'd grill them, and you'd get firm commitments. Am I hearing that right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Firm maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
Firm maybe.
Let's change the subject and go to the last topic. And this was a topic of your choice. All the new candidates that we're talking with this fall were given a choice. Talk about something that you want to talk about. Pick anything. Just let me know so I know something a little about it. What did you pick for the topic of your choice?
I picked to discuss how the town gives money to certain organizations, and how I used to feel that we should not do that, and how I had kind of a change of heart.
You've evolved.
I have.
So where was the tipping point? What did what made you sort of change?
So, several years ago, I would see that the town was giving money in the budgets to SCOW, for example, or...
SCOW, Spanish Community of Wallingford?
Yes. Coalition for a Better Wallingford, organizations such as those. And I would think, why is taxpayer money going to this? If somebody wants to start an organization to do good things for others, that's on them. Why is this taxpayer money? And the more I got to meet with these groups and see what they're doing and the good work they're doing, I really changed how I felt about that. First of all, it's not huge amounts of money that we're giving them, but it is allowing them to function, and they serve a very important role in our community. And I think it's something that the government would need to do if we didn't have these groups. So I always feel that private groups tend to do better than government groups. So I'm glad that we have these people, and if we need to give them a little bit of money to, I think, save money in the long run, but also to better our community, then I think it's a good thing.
So let me see if I can cause some problems for you.
Sure.
On that. Maybe I can. I don't know, because I don't have too much of a quarrel with what's going on either. But these groups, the leaders of these groups, are regular viewers of the Citizen Mike show. I hope. Who knows? They're one of the two people that watch, and so they see Christina Tatta saying, "Well, I really like these groups, and the causes, and they say, let's up our request for that 2020-21 fiscal year. We think we got to vote in Christina Tatta." Now, one of these groups comes and asks for, let's say, a 10% increase, and word gets around, and I think I'll do that too, and someone else asks for a 10% increase, and you have just praised, and rightfully so, the work that they've done. But do you add more money to their budgets?
Well,
If they ask, can you say no? Or you're open to, increased mission, maybe, and more money.
I would not have a problem saying no if I don't feel like that is justified.
Okay.
So I think that looking at their budgets, seeing what they're spending the money on, if we are giving them money, is important. And one of my main things that I've been campaigning on is I'm really going to focus on trying to keep the mill rate reasonable. And so I think that entails looking at every single budget line item, including these groups.
So the following is based on a true story. It's not a true story. It's based on a true story, and it goes back some years. And what I'm about to describe, which is somewhat fictionalized, recurs from time to time. So there's a nonprofit group that comes in front of the council for a request, and some counselor or one or more counselors, and this has happened, said, I don't know if you really need it. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I'd like to see your financials. Oh, that's a real problem. They get their back up, and you don't trust us, and are you questioning our judgment, and how dare you? You've never asked for this before. And the problem I see it, if you pick and choose which organization you're going to ask to see financials of, if you pick and choose, they kind of take it personally. And that to date, there has not been an across-the-board policy that town councilors see all of the financials, where they get their money from, how much they have left over, how much they have in savings, what are their operating expenses. It's not a lot. I mean, this is your job. This is what you do for your business. You're the head bookkeeper, yeah? So it shouldn't be a real problem to run off QuickBooks, the last year-end statement and distribute it before asked. What are your thoughts on what I just said?
I think if somebody's asking for money, I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
Would you do that if you were on the council?
I think if I saw a need to, I would.
But see, there you're picking and choosing. I don't know. Would I institute a policy across the board? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. Okay.
But I don't think that that's an unreasonable request.
Let me throw one last thing at you. And so the budget for this past year, the current year that we're in for these nonprofits, is a lot of money. All added up is about $1.3 million. Now, most of that is for the senior center. It's always been that way.
Yes.
Most of it is the senior center, but there are, there's some other big ones. At what point? I don't know if we can really answer this with a fine line, but it sounds like a lot of money. $1.3 million for nonprofits. What say you to that? Am I trying to make something out of nothing? In which case, tell me.
No, I think, that's valid. Yeah. It's a lot of money. I think we have to look at the benefits versus the cost. So if the residents of the town are benefiting and there's and these nonprofits are doing a good job at the services they're providing and it's saving, the town government from having to provide them, then I think it's worth it. So, I think we have to look at the benefits versus the cost and see if this worth the taxpayer money.
Let's make that the final word because we are out of time. Thanks for coming on the Citizen Mike Show. Yeah, good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you.
And our viewers, thank you too, because they learn about you and about the topics that we've been talking about. So, good luck to Christina Tatta. And our next guest is Aaron Corso of the Board of Education. Aaron Corso, thanks for coming back to the Citizen Mike Show. We haven't talked to you about a year, I think. And other than talking about the school renovation plan, we haven't really chatted much about what's going on in the education community. So we're really glad to have you because there's a lot of water over the dam, I think is the trite expression. So let's get right to it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Cell phones. Let's talk about cell phone policies and all that. It's not just cell phones, it's iPads and all these electronic devices. And I noticed that the Board of Ed recently adopted a policy. But I wanted to ask you this before we get into the policy. What percentage of high school students do you think carry some device to school with them? How prevalent is this?
Anecdotally,
Yeah, that's all. There's
95% of high school
I would guess the
students.
same. I would guess the same.
Yes.
And so why? What are they thinking? Why is it so important to do that?
To carry a cell phone?
Yeah.
I think it's just how teenagers, it's really how the world communicates these days. Communicate via texts, via social media.
Okay.
It's how things work.
So I was thinking about this because I knew, obviously we knew we were going to talk about this topic on cell phones, and I was thinking that the Citizen Mike Show should run an abstinence contest. How long can you stay away from your cell phone before you go stark raving mad, right? You have a piece of this. So I think the first round of this competition is you versus Mayor Dickinson. Who do you think could
He
spend
wins.
more
Hands
time?
down. He beats me. That's an easy one.
You're no fun. All right.
wins.
Before we get into the policy, I got another question for you. You have kids in school?
I do, yes.
What are their ages?
I have a 7th grader, a 6th grader, a 2nd grader, and a 1st grader.
So, as a mom, what's your view of your child? The oldest taking a cell phone. I know that's not a high school, but what's your view
So the 7th grader has a cell phone.
Okay, why?
The 7th grader, she's at gymnastics 21 to 22 hours a week. So she spends a lot of time away from us. So that was our reasoning. She gets on the bus in the morning without us. We leave before them in the morning. So that was one of the reasons when she was going into 6th grade. There's actually my mother is there to put them on the bus in the morning. Okay. So we wanted to know when you get on the bus, let us know. When you get off the bus in the afternoon, let us know.
And you think there are a lot of kids and moms and dads in the same spot?
I do.
Okay.
Yep, there are quite a few. So very busy after school. When plans change, whether I'm picking up, whether they're taking the bus home, it's really easy to communicate via cell phone. And I know that that's a lot of families are finding the same thing.
Okay.
Mom's not home anymore. If we had to call the office and talk to a secretary every time plans change, it's not only me, it's every other child in the building whose plans may change. I think that would inundate the secretaries quite a bit.
So let's focus back on high school. If the high school kids and if the high school moms and dads could write their own policy, let's start with the kids. If you know, I don't think anyone really, there's no census or data on this, so we're just kind of playing around here. But what would they want for a cell phone policy, the kids?
I think generally, I think parents want kids to have their phones in school.
But what about use? I mean,
Me?
No.
Use.
What are the
use.
kids? What would they want to?
So right now, the way the policy is written right now
Yeah.
for the high school, they can use them under teacher discretion in classrooms. So if it's an educational reason, whether they're playing, they play certain educational games where they all throw an answer up on the board.
Okay.
You can do it via Chromebook.
Okay.
It's a little easier to do it via cell phone.
Okay.
So whatever the teacher, it's up to the teacher discretion in the classroom. They can use it in the cafeteria. Hallways are not supposed to use it. That's the way the policy is written.
That's how it's right now.
That's how it's written right now for the high school.
Now, is there a change in the works? Or there was a recent vote?
So
and
that's the way it was written.
Okay.
I made a motion to change the language in the hallway. There was no. It didn't go anywhere.
So being naive as I am about school stuff, I would have thought the policy would be just the reverse of what you said. Don't use it in class. Because how does a teacher know, what you're using it for? How does a teacher know that you're not sending, text messages?
Yep.
I love you, babe. How do you know that? How do you know they're not, playing games? And
Well,
it puts
so-
a real
yeah.
burden on teachers to try to police that.
You're right.
I think don't use cell phones in class, but obviously I'm wrong.
So I want to go back.
Yeah.
It's cell phones are not allowed in class, with the exception of if the teacher allows it. If the teacher's saying we're all going to use this today,
Okay.
then we can use it. So they shouldn't be individually on their phones in class unless it's a educational activity approved by
Okay,
the teacher.
so let me, again, I got to put this in layman's language
Go
here.
ahead.
So they could go into a particular class and the cell phone should all be off and put away.
Yes.
Unless and until the teacher triggers it
Yes.
and the teacher says, okay, get out your cell phones
That's right.
and they follow instructions.
That's right.
And then
they can use them at lunch too.
I'm imagining that the teacher would say, okay, everybody put them away. Is that how
They
it
should
would-
be away
when
to
they're done?
begin with. And when they're done, yes, put them away.
Now, is there a problem in class with this? Is there a problem in the corridors? Is there a problem with cell phone usage that this policy was supposed to address?
Well, the policy is an update to the existing policy that still had
Okay.
beepers
Okay.
in it. So I think originally they were revising, the policy committee was revising the original policy to address current practice. So, on a personal level, I do think it puts way too much responsibility on teachers. I've heard a lot of parents say cell phones are disruptive. There's no need for them in schools. Our kids are addicted to them. They shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be doing that. But 95% of kids have cell phones. So to me, if you don't want your child to have a cell phone or to use a cell phone, one, don't give it to them. Two, shut it off during the school day, because there are ways that we as parents can. There's a reason one of my children has a phone right now and one does not.
Okay.
There's a reason for that.
Child
and that's a
specific.
parent decision. So as far as I'm concerned, until we get to the point where less than the majority, when less than 50% of the kids are bringing phones to school, then I don't think it's fair for the teachers or the administrators to have to police the usage of it.
So I'm just one more point, and then I'm gonna get off this because I do confess my naivete and unfamiliarity with this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the teachers in the school system is opening up a can of worms by having cell phones as part of the teaching program. I mean, if they need computers, give them laptops
we do
and
have
things like that.
one-to-one Chromebooks.
And so avoid the whole cell phone problem.
Mm-hmm.
They should never have to come out. Just my old school, just my old school thought. But I want to read you a sentence from the Record Journal
Sure.
that confused me. I was surprised you
Go
said
ahead.
what you did. It said the policy for high school students prohibits the use of digital devices such as cell phones, smartwatches, iPods, iPads, video recording devices, laptops during school hours except for lunch. But that's not quite right as written, is it?
So it should read there's a line in there at the discretion of the teacher.
Okay.
So
Okay. Let's change the subject.
go ahead.
Yeah. Let's talk about the school renovation project.
Favorite topic.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, and I think a lot of people were thinking that this fall, this issue would come up again and be in front of the Wallingford Town Council, but it hasn't come up yet. What's going on? What's the status of the school renovation project?
So we had submitted quite a few questions to the state level.
Concerning what?
Reimbursement rates, policies and regulations for new schools, what needs to be in place, what certain requirements are there. So we had submitted quite a few questions. The state was going to come and present to one of our board meetings. That got canceled and postponed. So at the end of October, Dr. Menzo is going to talk to the board about what he was able to come up with. He met with the state. So he's gonna talk to us. I think it's on the agenda, our last full board meeting of the month.
Well, is the state eventually going to come and make a presentation?
I'm not sure they're going to present at this point. I think he's going to present the information that they.
So the timeline is off from what we originally thought.
It is. It got postponed a little bit.
What do you think the new timeline is now? When might it come in front of the town council?
So I think the results of the facility study came out and were presented to us a month or two ago. And it really told us that the majority of people who answered the survey in town think that something needs to be done. Some sort of renovations need to happen, whether it's one school, whether it's renovating all four schools, one high school rather, whether it's renovating all four schools, that the majority of the people that answered the survey said that. That being said, there's going to be an additional study being done, a deeper dive is what Dr. Menzo calls it, in terms of what actually needs to be done in each specific building. If we're going to move ahead and do something,
Under which option? Under
I think there'll be more than one option explored.
So, why is this happening now? Why this late in the game? I mean, the survey already went out. There are comments. I mean, we could find them. They're out there that even without this additional information, it was supposed to come in front of the town council. So I'm a little bit taken aback that suddenly the Board of Ed decides it's not armed with enough information.
Yeah, I don't think.
Why? I don't get that.
I think the survey was pretty broad, and to be honest with you, we probably all could have come up with those three options without the survey.
Yep.
We either keep it the way it is and continue along with our strategic plan, we renovate all four, or we combine high schools and create one high school. I mean, we probably didn't need a broad level survey to come up with that. I could have come up with that. So I don't think there's enough information at this point to take to the town council. I don't think anybody's confident enough at this point to take it to the town council and say, this is what we came up with. This is what we're looking at. I think there's too many unanswered questions.
So there's
at
a
this
whole
point.
basket. There's a whole basket of new information that's going to be going to be presented.
I hope. There's a lot of unanswered questions. The reimbursement rate and how things get reimbursed and what qualifies for reimbursement, I think that's really important for anybody to know. And I don't think anybody really specifically knows that until the state comes back and tells us that. So there's different rates for different
I remember that from the
options.
presentation in this last year.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess I just want to express my surprise that at this stage of things, I think the Board of Ed thought everything would be kind of wrapped up in a bow, ready to go into one specific direction, and now the Board of Ed is saying there's a whole lot of stuff we don't know, we need to know, and it seems like not starting from square one, but taking 3 steps back before you can take a bunch of steps forward.
It's a really big project, and I wouldn't want to push anything through without doing our due diligence.
Oh, you're preaching to the
so
choir
if we're
here.
not comfortable pushing anything to the town council,
Okay.
I'm okay holding off on it.
Let's talk
at this
about
point.
test scores.
Sure.
Yeah, let's change the subject a little bit. So there's some recent reporting that Wallingford test scores didn't fare so well compared to other towns. I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what Wallingford residents should take away from reporting like that. What do you think?
In general, about our test scores, I think we need to do better.
But everyone wants to do better, but how can that be done?
So
And is that a reflection on the Board of Ed or the administration?
we can take some responsibility for it, sure.
Okay.
I think we've done a pretty good job making sure our curriculum is aligned with the tests that we consider high stakes testing. I think we've done a pretty good job putting measures into place throughout the school year to monitor our progress. There's things in place for that also. And I think at this point, I think the push at this point is to make sure the curriculum is being instructed with fidelity and purpose. And I think the administrators in every building are taking responsibility for that. I think that they're really targeting.
What does responsibility look like?
Yeah, well, I think they're targeting certain professional development opportunities.
Okay.
We brought in a company called Literacy How to help our teachers identify issues and target those issues in a more efficient manner. I think we know more now than we knew like 5 years ago. So there's that constant ongoing professional development that's happening. We are in the midst of school improvement plans. So every administrator is presenting their building-wide school improvement plan, and we're looking at test scores and saying, okay, well, this is where you are now. Tell us what you're doing to address that and how you're going to move forward. So we just finished all the elementary schools last night.
One of the criticisms, one of the raps, and I'm not saying it's based on any facts whatsoever. I'm just sort of one of the raps of the school system is that it's loaded with administrators, loaded with experts and aides and all kinds of stuff. I don't know if that's true, so I want to get your view of that. But I would have thought that this kind of extra help was already built in, given the Board of Ed's budget. All these experts and all these professional development opportunities were already baked in the cake, and now we find, oh no, we have to change or shift.
I don't think we're changing. I think we're bringing in better.
Okay.
I think we're evolving in the right manner. I like the way it's going now. In terms of our administrators union, I actually think our administrators union, I think there's less administrators for our size of a district than there are in comparable districts. I think it's actually a smaller amount of administrators in Wallingford than comparable districts. For example, our department heads at the high school are not administrators. And typically department heads in the high school level in districts of our size are administrators. Ours are not. So and if you look at, 5, 6, 7 departments that's 14 less administrators than other districts comparable to our size.
Do the measures that you have just described, do they ever come up in board meetings where the Board of Education has a moment or an hour or an agenda item of self-reflection as to what the Board of Ed could have done, should have done, or should do in the future to make sure they're doing everything they can do to see test scores rise? Is that moment of reflection ever come? Or is it sort of, well, it's all behind closed doors and telephone calls and it's not discussed openly, you just don't talk about it?
It has not shown up on an agenda. It has not been an agenda item.
Should it be, or
to discuss.
No need for it?
I think
Open question.
it can't hurt. I don't think it would hurt.
Yeah.
As a board member, ultimately we're setting policy and we're overseeing budgets. So, and our one employee is Dr. Menzo. So in terms of we don't have 9 educators on the Board of Ed.
Yeah.
We have people from all walks of life. So are test scores important? Absolutely. And are they the only measure of our school system? No.
Here's what I was getting at, and I didn't mean to be indirect. But someone puts on the agenda, and by the way your agenda works is different than the town council's agenda, I think. But someone somehow it gets on the agenda. Wallingford test scores, they're not as good as they should be. We're talking about it tonight and what we can do. That's what I mean. Mm-hmm. But that has never happened and probably never will.
Well, that happens through our school improvement plans.
No, I'm talking about the Board of Education meetings.
That's the Board of Education,
Okay.
and when the administrators present school improvement plans, those are the questions that we're asking and the topics that we're targeting.
Okay.
And that's what we expect to see. And when we built this agenda originally for years, we would squish 12 schools into one night, and then the curriculum department in another night, and that doesn't give anybody enough time to talk about their building, and it doesn't give us enough time to ask important questions about what's going on in their building. So we changed things. I asked for the agenda to be split. We've now split it into 4 different nights. So we have special meetings now. Last night was a special instructional committee meeting to discuss school improvement plans. So if you want to know what's going on and
the code
how we're
word is
addressing
school improvement plan. That's
absolutely,
the code word.
it's
Okay.
happening through those meetings,
All right.
and those are yearly meetings. Obviously, they're on the agendas, and anybody can attend those meetings and ask any type of questions. It's open for public. We were there until 10 o'clock last night, so nobody was there to ask no public comment questions.
Well, because, and I think it's because, and then I want to move on to another topic, but I think it partly is because the code word, as far as the public is concerned, is not school improvement plan. The code word, the buzzword, is test scores. Are you talking about test scores, or are you talking about other deep, convoluted stuff, in educational jargon? But if you put on the agenda tonight, test scores and what we're doing about it, you may get a room full of people. Just a
Test scores. So
suggest-
school improvement plans for the high school level are happening in
know.
November. So if you want to know about middle school and high school test scores,
All right.
join us.
Let's talk about the student-teacher ratio. There was a comment made by one of the candidates that Wallingford could do a better job. I don't know if it's true or not, but I thought you're coming on the show and I'd ask you. What can you tell us about the current student-teacher ratios? Are they
Set by the board.
okay?
So K through 2 pre-K through 2 schools cannot go over 21 students in a class.
How does that compare to other towns, insofar as you know about what other towns
So ours is set by the board.
do? Okay.
Other towns have class sizes set by the union at times.
Do you know how our 21 compares to?
That's 21, and there's in K through kindergarten and first grade, they have a full-time aid. So
Okay.
it's a teacher plus a full-time aid.
But I mean, like Southington, Cheshire, Meriden,
I think it's pretty comparable.
Okay.
If not better than other surrounding towns. So they can't go over 21. 3 to 5 can't go over 23. Our middle school and high school doesn't have a set designation by the board because there's like band that's different.
But you're probably satisfied with that, and you don't think
I am satisfied with a class size of 21.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the limit. So if we've hit that in August, if we have 1 or 2 class sizes that are over 21 in August, that's when we add teachers. So years ago, even when my 6th and 7th grader were little, we got their teacher in June for the next school year. But things were changing so much, and populations were changing, that sometimes new sections needed to be added, and kids got shifted out of that class that they were assigned
to keep
in June.
Class size.
Right.
within
I think we added 5 teachers in August
All
to
right.
keep our numbers down.
We only have a few minutes left, but I want to touch on one last subject, and that is whether or not Wallingford has like a manufacturing program,
Yes.
a vocational manufacturing program.
Yep.
Can you give us quickly the status of that?
Sure, we do. We have advanced manufacturing that's happening at both high schools.
What's the enrollment? Do you have any idea what how many
I
kids
think there's
are?
about 48 kids in both high schools.
Okay.
So if you talk to the state manufacturers councils and our labor department, there's estimated 10,000 jobs opening in manufacturing over the next 10 years, and we need to prepare our workforce for that.
Well, how do we know what Wallingford has is going to fit with the?
So we're partnered with Goodwin College.
Okay.
And Goodwin College is feeder programs for our manufacturing companies. So kids our teachers are certified by Goodwin College. So the kids that are taking certain classes in the advanced manufacturing program are earning credits towards advanced manufacturing certificates. It's typically a 10-month program. All of our community colleges have it also.
Okay.
So they're earning these credits towards that 10-month.
Do you have any data yet on placement?
Don't have placement data yet.
When have kids graduated and?
Soon, I hope.
Okay.
I don't have any data right now. We did just purchase 3 new lathing, some sort of machinery.
Yeah.
3 new pieces of equipment to support the program. Those 3 pieces are going in at Lyman Hall for space reasons. That's where they could fit. But that's all to support our manufacturing initiative.
So the proof of the pudding
Yep.
is going to be when
Yep.
these kids, get out,
Yep.
can they get jobs right away at the salaries, at kind of handsome salaries?
Yes.
That,
Yes.
So we'll dial it ahead for about a year, and maybe placement data
Yes.
might be
Then
available.
we'll have some more information about that. Yes.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Let's make that the final word.
Sounds good.
That works. I want to thank you for coming back on the
Thank you.
Citizen Mike Show, and viewers, thank you too. And that wraps it up. That's all we have time for. I want to thank Christina Tatta one more time and Aaron Corso one more time for coming on the Citizen Mike Show. And thank you, the viewers, for watching. Good night, everyone. Be safe.